The sun beat down on Jerusalem, casting long, harsh shadows over the ancient city. The air was thick with heat, making every breath a laborious task. Dust swirled in the narrow streets, carried by the relentless wind. The roads were dry and unforgiving, each step kicking up more dust into the already stifling air. A man stumbled through these streets, burdened by a heavy wooden cross. His steps were faltering, each one a monumental effort. The weight of the cross seemed almost unbearable. This man was Jesus, condemned to death by crucifixion. A crown of thorns dug into his scalp, and his wrists were bound in chains. His fate was sealed. He had been beaten mercilessly by Roman soldiers, his body covered in bruises and wounds. The crowd had mocked him, their jeers echoing in his ears. Now he could barely walk under the immense weight of the cross. Each step was a struggle, his body weary and broken. His destination was Golgotha, a hill outside the city walls. Each step towards this place of execution was agony, his body screaming in pain. Jesus fell again and again, the weight of the cross too much to bear. Each fall was met with the harsh reality of the ground beneath him. The rough wood of the cross dug into his wounded shoulders, each step causing fresh pain. His skin was raw and bleeding, the agony unrelenting, but he rose each time, driven by a determination to obey his Father's will. His resolve was unshakable, his spirit unbroken despite the torment. The crowds watched, their faces a mix of emotions. Some looked on with pity, their hearts aching for his suffering. Others watched with hatred, their eyes filled with contempt. The weight of the cross was not just physical, but a burden of humanity's sins. Reaching the top of Golgotha, Jesus saw the cross lying on the ground. It was a cruel instrument of death, a stark reminder of the Roman Empire's brutal methods of maintaining control and order. The cross, made of rough, splintered wood, awaited its next victim. Jesus saw the cross lying on the ground. It was a cruel instrument of death. It was a cruel instrument of death. Roman soldiers, hardened by years of war, prepared to nail him to it. Their faces were stern, their hands steady as they carried out their grim task with practiced efficiency. Roman soldiers, hardened by years of war, prepared to nail him to it. Above Jesus' head they nailed a sign. Above Jesus' head they nailed a sign. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Pilate, the Roman governor, had meant it as a mockery. He wanted to humiliate Jesus and his followers, to show them the futility of their hopes and dreams. Pilate, the Roman governor, had meant it as a mockery, but it was in fact the truth. Jesus was a king, but his kingdom was not of this world, but it was in fact the truth. Jesus was a king, but his kingdom was not of this world. He was a king who had come to save his people from their sins. His crown was made of thorns, a symbol of suffering and sacrifice. Jesus was a king, but his kingdom was not of this world. He was a king who had come to save his people from their sins. His crown was made of thorns, a symbol of suffering and sacrifice. His throne was a cross, a symbol of ultimate love and redemption. He was a king who had come to save his people from their sins. His crown was made of thorns, a symbol of suffering and sacrifice. His throne was a cross, a symbol of ultimate love and redemption. Through his death, he offered salvation to all who would believe in him. The soldiers tore away Jesus' clothes. They gambled for his seamless robe, casting lots to see who would take it. Jesus was left exposed and humiliated. He felt the shame of nakedness, the sting of their cruelty. But Jesus felt a deeper pain, the pain of our sins. He was innocent, yet he was taking the punishment we deserve. He was dying so that we might live. Section 4, A Mother's Agony, a Disciple's Devotion. At the foot of the cross stood a group of women. Among them were Mary, Jesus' mother, her heart breaking with grief. There was Mary Magdalene, who loved Jesus deeply. And there was John, the disciple whom Jesus loved. Jesus saw his mother's pain. He looked at John and said, "Behold your mother." And to Mary he said, "Behold your son." From that hour, John took Mary into his own home, caring for her as his own mother. Section 5, It is finished. Darkness fell over the land, casting an eerie shadow that seemed to swallow everything in its path. The air grew heavy, and an unsettling silence enveloped the scene. Jesus, hanging on the cross, cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" His voice echoed through the desolate landscape, a cry of profound anguish and abandonment. Parched and in agony, he was thirsty. The Roman soldiers, in a cruel gesture, offered him sour wine on a sponge. The bitterness of the wine mirrored the bitterness of the moment. With a final, resolute breath, Jesus said, "It is finished." These words, simple yet profound, marked the culmination of his earthly suffering and the fulfillment of his mission. He bowed his head and gave up his spirit. The lifeless body of Jesus hung on the cross, a poignant symbol of sacrifice and love. At that very moment, the earth shook violently, and the curtain in the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The ground split open, and the world seemed to tremble in response to this monumental event. A Roman centurion, witnessing these extraordinary events, was moved to declare, "Surely he was the Son of God." His words echoed the realization of many who stood in awe. Jesus, the Son of God, was dead. His lifeless body was taken down from the cross, a somber and heart-wrenching moment for his followers, but his death was not the end. As light pierced through the stormy sky, it signaled the dawn of a new era. Hope began to rise like the sun over a desolate landscape. It was the beginning of new life for him and for all who believe in him. The darkness gave way to light, and despair was replaced with hope, promising a future filled with grace and redemption.